Okay. My name is Zach. I'm a sequential artist, and I figured I'd just start putting together like a video portfolio to show off my process, um, and see if people are interested in some simple art tips and stuff. So I'm working on this character, GUNFISH. That's not his name, but he has a gun that's a fish. And I'm just sort of doing some development sketches. The first thing I'm going to do right now, I just finished these little sketches, is flip the drawing horizontal. It's a good idea to do this to see if you can find any sort of flaws that you can't see normally. For example, his fingers bending outward here doesn't really look right. I think it would make probably more sense for them to be coming in, and maybe I want them to be a little bit chunkier. I'm going with somebody who has really outlandish proportions here. I'm not super great with normal proportions. I've been practicing my anatomy and stuff, but it's still really tough to for me to not dramatize things at least a decent amount. Anyway, I sort of like the way that this looks, so I'm just going to get right into my inking and coloring process for this video. So when you're doing your characters, it's a good idea to outline their props. So here I have, this. I probably should draw, he has this sort of rebreather thing for breathing underwater. I should probably do a more detailed drawing of that, but in my head I have a pretty good idea of what I want that to look like, so I'm not too worried about it. When I'm inking, oh boy, in the last few drawings I used deadlines, which is I just turned off the weight of the pen pressure. I kind of like the way that looks. It's a little more animation style than comic book, but for this drawing I'm going to try to keep the pen pressure back on just because you can get a little bit more expressive, I think. What else do I want to talk about here? Oh, to sort of get his color palette, I researched a few other artists' color palettes, because color palettes is something that I'm still really struggling with. Finding something that's simple and elegant is difficult, but when in doubt, just turn the saturation down, and that seems to be working for me. Normally, things I do are either way too saturated or they're just colors that don't really work together. A lot of people know about, complementary colors, which I think works in a lot of cases, but, people are so accustomed to seeing complementary colors that you don't only want to do complementary colors. I mean, you can, obviously. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I think it gets boring. I think, oh, blue and orange, oh. You've seen that 5 million times. There's like this Reddit thread that's like, oh, look at all of these blue and orange movie posters, and there's literally a million of them. So, I don't know. If you want to stand out, do complementary colors, but add your own little, they call it an accent color, where you pick a color that's not really in the sphere of what you're doing for a character. Like a bright pink or something that just sort of pops, and then you only use a very small amount of it. The one rule that I have learned from studying sequential art and character design and stuff like that, and even comic books especially, is the 70-30 rule, where if you're doing black placement or color chunks or shading, you want to make sure that you keep it in these ratios. So, you got this guy. If you do 70% of him, let's say that this, as black, you want 30% that's white, or whatever other color. It just gives a good balance, and it's good for readability, which is what's most important in comics and character design and stuff like that. Readability, because as much as it is art, it's art for the sake of communication. It's not fine art. It's art for getting a message across quickly, in like today's climate, or whatever you want to call it. People don't have time for, I mean, you can get weird, and I really like to get weird sometimes and make strange stuff that's a little off the beaten path, but if you want to get a message across quickly, you're going to have to grab people's attention, and you're going to have to do something that immediately is understandable, is readable, because comic books and video games and stuff like that are all about communication. It's like communicating a message, or a theme, or what have you. So he has these little dongles on his breather, and I like them silhouette wise, but doing them from a side view I feel like is gonna look weird. Try and keep it simple is the best. If you don't really know how something looks, it's good to try to figure it out, or if you're still kind of working through things, reduce it to a really simple shape, and then see how it looks with the overall form. I do a lot of obsessive zooming in and out and canvas rotating just to see how things fit with the overall design. And here I'm not using a black line. I'm using a dark blue. I don't know why I don't like inking in black. It feels too heavy to me, and I like to pick something that's like harmonious with my color palette, so I'm doing a really dark blue here, and the color palette is like yellows and blues, and I feel like black kind of deadens things, and it's just a little too intense, I think, for my art style. So I keep hiding this underneath line layer, because I probably shouldn't. My drawings get done a lot faster when I don't do that, but I like to see how the product is turning out. And then if you hide the ink layer, and see, I kind of like how chunky the outside lines are the sketch layer, but they aren't in this ink layer, so maybe I'll beef those up a little bit to give him some more oomph, to make him pop a little. Maybe went a little too far. Gunfish. So this is for a anthology that I'm working on with my friends from school. We're doing a sort of island water themed future anthology. We're not really 100% decided on anything yet, but when I get like a weird little itch idea in my brain, I have to just kind of work through it. I just finished up a really big project, so I'm taking a few days off to just kind of explore my own ideas and my own stuff, which I don't really have a lot of time to do these days, which is kind of upsetting, because a lot of people start doing art seriously once they realize how much fun you can have with it, and then the more you do it seriously, the sort of more you lose the fun quickly if you're not careful, if you're not taking care of yourself physically and mentally, and making sure that what you work on is feeding your soul or whatever. You wanna create stuff that makes you happy. You wanna make things that it's your art. I hate when people tell other artists what to draw. Oh, you can't draw that. Oh, don't draw that. Or you should be drawing this or that or whatever. It's like, I worked however many years I did to get here. Let me draw what I want to draw. If you want something drawn. If you want to see a certain thing, do it yourself. Figure it out yourself. I don't think that artists have, maybe certain public figures do, but I don't think that a regular ass artist like me has this obligation to, not that this has ever happened to me. I'm certainly not popular enough for anybody to approach me and say some stuff like this, but I've seen it happen a lot to other people, where people are like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I don't think anybody's beholden to anybody else with their artistic, it's like, it applies to anything else. If somebody's a video editor or a filmmaker, well, I guess filmmakers do get jabbed on a lot for what they do and don't make. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. That's always a possibility. Maybe if you do art, there is a certain amount that you owe the public, since art is a form of communication, and it's like, I don't know, it reflects society, I guess, in a way. Whenever I'm inking, I tend to add like weird little details that I'll be kicking myself for in the final design. I don't like that. Makes him look like a cat. No. It's hard when you're inking. You want to make it look more interesting than the underneath layer, because then you just feel like, oh, I just inked all this, wasted all that time, when the sketch looked just as cool. But if you add too much stuff, especially if you're going to be redrawing the character a lot, you're going to regret it. So keep it simple, I guess, is the lesson here. Looking at this pattern on his hoodie, which we probably won't see from this angle. I don't think the Gunfish's design is quite finalized here. I think it's close, but I don't know, maybe once I slap some color on this bad boy, I'll be happy about it. But I kind of want him to have some sort of method of reloading, like some kind of like snap thing here where it like goes down, like, and then he can pop out like a giant shell will come out the side, like a gun shell, like, I guess I do a lot of sound effects, if that bothers you. I do apologize. Psych! Psych! This is my channel, I can do whatever I want. This is America. Don't catch you not standing up straight. Don't catch you falling down. Don't catch you... I'm done. That bit's done. It's over. These are his like rebreather, his oxygen stores. Later in the design, I was thinking of changing them to gun belts or something. But I do like the idea of having something chunky on his back, because I want this character to be super top heavy. And then I really like these super skinny legs, but when I think about what he looks like without all his clothes on, his body proportions are like ridiculous. His thighs would be like this, and then his legs would be like, and then what are his arms, like really this skinny? I don't know. Oh, there's a lot to think about. This is character design, kids. It's not always easy, but it is definitely my favorite part of drawing, is coming up with different characters. I have this folder on my computer of like just a billion characters. A billion? Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, right. Yeah, freaking right. You don't have a billion. You don't have a billion characters. As if. Maybe like 4, maybe like 8, maybe like 7. I have this folder on my desktop of all of these character designs that I've been working on that have no particular, where the heck are they going to go? There's no place for me to put them. I can't make as many comics as characters that I have, which makes me think like, oh, I should like try to get a job doing character designs for like a game company or something. But then you get out there, you take a quick peek at your competition, spend all day on Instagram looking at people who are so far beyond your skill level that it makes you nauseous, and you're like, maybe not. Maybe I will not do that. Maybe I'll just design logos for like local business websites. It's like a cat grooming company. Like, we need a cat. Like, draw us a cat. Like, meow. I don't know what's wrong with me. I think I spend too much time by myself. Too much time inside. Too much time drawing. Just kidding. You can never spend too much time drawing. As my infamous professor once said, Zach, if you keep drawing like this, you're going to end up making children's coloring books for the rest of your life. Like, get good. And I was like, F you. And I stormed out. Like a real, actual adult. Stormed out of a college class that I was paying for. Sometimes you just gotta take a stand. You gotta make a point. You gotta get physical. I do a lot of sing-song stuff. I sing a lot. I have a really bad voice, but I like to turn things into songs that aren't songs. So if you don't like that, I apologize. Just kidding, I don't apologize. This is getting super cringy. This is very cringy. It's okay. It's gunfish. Fish gun. Gunfish, fish gun. My favorite part is not inking. I don't like inking. It's never been something that I excelled at. I'm too obsessed with like the quality of the lines and the cleanness of the lines, and it's just very irritating experience for me most of the time. A few things that I did learn, and I guess I'll share with you, are the thickness of your lines. So just as like a simple rule of thumb to like keep things super clear, when your lines are inside, like inside lines, like folds here and these patches on his shoulders, and these lines here on his little neck cushion, make them thinner, and the outside lines thicker, just for readability's sake. And then another thing that you can do if you're real hardcore is the direction that the light, say the light's coming like this way, you would want these lines to be thinner up here, thin, and then down here thick. So where the light's hitting, the line should be thinner. So por ejemplo, light, thick, and then the light's coming from here. So light again. Oh boy, Zach. So thick here where the shadow would be, and then thin where the light's hitting, and then thick again on the bottom. And so that sort of makes it look like, wow, there's a light source. Although I didn't quite handle that as well as I wanted to, but it's okay, because the drawing's never going to turn out how you want to, because it's 2019 and everything is terrible, and it's just going to keep getting worse. Just kidding. This is my year. My horoscope said, good job, Zach. My horoscope said, nice. You know, not bad. You're killing it. Let me save this bad boy. Okay, so I just realized I just watched. This is my first time doing this, and I didn't really do any prep work or tests or anything, which is probably a bad call, but like I'm bored and I wanted to try it. But the audio quality is pretty hideous, and I don't have a mic. And maybe in the future I'll get a mic if anybody actually watches this and they're like, hey, dude, get a mic. It's miserable to listen to you clickety tap away on those buttons and scritchety scratch on that busted up screen of yours. And we really want them nuggets of wisdom that you're dropping, like, wow, 70-30 rule, wow, color palettes, wow. This guy really knows his way around just being as mediocre as possible. Just kidding. Wow, I'm in a mood today. Anyway, if you guys want me to get a better mic, I will get a better mic if anybody cares, or if that ever becomes a big enough issue. But for now, I'm going to spend my money on Kingdom Hearts 3 and other video games that I shouldn't be playing, because it's taking away time from, you know, building my portfolio and becoming a legitimate artist and, like, becoming the most famous artist in the world. Like, this is my plan, is to be, I'm going to be the greatest artist that ever lived. I'm gonna be the best. There's not Michelangelo who? Tell me about this guy who drew Gunfish though. That's what I'm curious about. Wow, it's a fish that's a gun. Was it a gun first? Was it a fish first? What happened to it? What occurred in its sordid past? Like, tell me more. Tell me more. Did you get very yeet? Yeet on him. Gotta yeet on him to stay sane. So I undo lines a lot because I'm unsatisfied with the way that they look. But if you're just getting started, if you're just practicing out, first of all, it's a terrible idea for me to be doing that. And I'm not, any kind of, no, I am a professional. Forget imposter syndrome. Look at this Gunfish. You're telling me that a professional didn't do that? You're telling me some amateur drew that? Yeah, right. I'm a pro. What was I even saying? Oh my god. Inking. If you're inking and you notice yourself undoing lines a lot, I recommend switching over to traditional for a little while or working on paper with a pen. Because the thing about digital drawing, it's amazing because you can get like this level of fidelity and clarity, and you can nitpick as much as you want and really get in there and rotate individual fingers and eyes and noses and really get something that looks like a finished product. But the problem is it's so hard to grow as an artist if you just do digital art. I'm not saying it's impossible, and I'm not saying that this applies to everybody because it most likely doesn't. It most likely just applies to me and maybe a few other people, but I can only speak from my own experience here. Drawing digitally while getting a finished product, you don't get as much practice as you can. And the fact that you can get in there and tweak every little thing, A, slows you down, and B, you don't have to address your mistakes ever. You can just keep undoing them until it looks right. Because there's a certain stage that you get to when you draw a lot where it's like, I know that this looks wrong. I don't know why this looks wrong. I don't know how to fix it, but I know it looks wrong. And if you're working digitally, you can just kind of keep fit-angling it until it looks right, which is kind of what I'm doing right now, to be perfectly honest with you. It's sort of what I do a lot. Just because I want to make stuff that I can put on social media. I want to make stuff that I can throw up on Instagram and I'll get likes for it because, I don't know, whatever happened to my brain, I can't just draw for fun anymore. I mean, I can, but if I don't post it, I'm like, why did I even draw that? Or if I'm not going to post it, I'm like, why did I even draw that? And I realize that that's super unhealthy and wrong, but I think a lot of other artists struggle with that too. Where you just kind of feel like you always have to be creating and sharing and putting stuff out there and trying to get attention. Hence me making these videos. This video is probably not going to continue past this, but just kidding. There's going to be tons of content. I know what I'm talking about. Oh my god, I'm almost done inking. So when I get to being almost done inking, what was I saying before? Something about traditionally inking. Basically, if you're a beginner and you want to get better, just do a ton of drawings and don't worry if they're garbage. One of my professors was like, yeah, it's like 70% trash art and then 30% of your art is good, and then, the further along you get, the higher the percentage of good art becomes. And it's not going to increase drastically, it might be like 32% or 34% or whatever. But your drawings aren't always going to be something that you're proud of, which I think is fine. You don't always have to be making stuff that looks fantastic. What matters is the study of it, the effort of it, and realizing what mistakes you make regularly. Another thing that I think has really hindered me I switched to digital a couple of years ago, and I really like it just because I can color and nitpick all my mistakes. But oh crap, I lost my train of thought. I had too much coffee today, guys. So whatever I was talking about, forget it. It wasn't important, obviously, because it just totally slipped my mind. What's important is Gunfish and his future and his solar panel scales that power his laser beam mouth. And I think he can swim on his own. Like, I think if you, like, put him down in the water, Gunfish can just swim away. And he's chosen this guy to, like, wield him. Sort of almost exactly like King Arthur. Sword in the stone kind of thing, but it's a gun in it. I had this one roommate who always used to, everything I did, he would compare it to two things. He would say, oh, this is like, you know, Princess Mononoke meets Voltron, or whatever meets whatever. And it used to get me so mad, and I was always like, you know, everything isn't just two things. Everything isn't just a thing and another thing. Some things are unique. But the further along I get in my life, and he was a little bit older than me, the further along I get in my life, the more I realize that that is absolutely true. Almost everything in the world is just a thing plus another thing. Stranger Things is like E.T. plus Akira. Oh, that actually sounds way cooler than what Stranger Things ended up being. But it's a good show. I don't mean to rag on it. Didn't super love the second season. No, there's not a lot of art tips going on right now. Guys, I'm just kind of rambling. That's probably pretty intolerable for anybody who came here learning how to draw better. Nerds. Freaking nerds. Drawing is for nerds. What other tips can I give you? What other tips? Oh, so a lot of people say, oh my god, I'm done. The inking part is over. Hide that. Hide that ish. Here we go. Here we have my final ink piece. And tighten that up a little bit. I think pretty good for now. I like that. So let's get into colors. This is going to be pretty embarrassing because I think my method of coloring is atrocious. I don't know how normal people do it, but I'm really bad at it. Anyway, what I do is I do this. I get my colors, make a new layer. This helps especially if you're making a comic book. I just snag every color. So here's his sweatshirt, and here's all the colors on his sweatshirt. And then skin tone, hair color, his eyebrows are a little bit darker. And I just make this little palette of, here's his shorts, put that with the clothing. I make this little palette here of what his colors are. And that way, every time I open a new document, I just copy this color palette and slap it in there. And then I have it. Ta-da! I've seen some people make like mini characters out of the colors. It's super cute. Where like they'll take the face color and the hair color and the shirt color and they'll draw like a little guy so they know where everything goes. But I know where everything goes. I don't have time for that. It's 2019. I keep doing that because I have this one artist friend who is constantly just saying what year it is, as if that's some sort of explanation for why our lives are the way that they are. Like, oh, it's 2019. Like, I wasn't going to paint the Sistine Chapel anyway. I know it's 2019. I forgot his hairband color. It's red. That's the accent color. There should be more red on him. Maybe I'll put it on his shoes. This is his underwater mode. So, he's got this, like, bubble helmet. I don't super like the way that skin tone looks. Whatever. So I use, my brushes all have anti-aliasing turned off, which it's these like sketchy, like dotty edges. It'll get rid of that. But I like it because if I turn it off, the drawings are like way crisper. And then when you fill things in with the paint bucket tool like a 4-year-old, it goes right up to the edges and there's not like a ton of white space, which is really good because I super hate going in and filling everything in. A lot of people just do, in order to avoid that, if you do broken lines, which I've done here where the line doesn't fully connect, And, you know, sometimes that's nice for, like, letting a drawing breathe. You know, it happens here as well. Here. 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 People... I don't know what it is. I can't really explain it because I don't have a super good grasp of why this is this way. But if you draw every detail on a drawing, it's sometimes, especially in a more cartoony style like mine, it can be hard for the viewer to engage with it. Whereas like somebody like Mike Mignola, who like draws super exaggerated shapes and sort of reduces everything to these very blocky chunks, it allows the reader to participate more in the drawing. They can look at it and sort of infer what they think, you know, where they think the nose ends, what they think is going on hidden in that shadow back there or whatever. And I think that's really important, the participatory nature of drawing. Because especially, so primarily I do comic book stuff. Just because you get to draw a ton of, you know, you never have to spend too long on one thing, which drives me crazy. I would love to try illustration someday, but I have such a horrendously short attention span that I don't think I would be able to spend that long on one drawing. But I primarily do comic book stuff, and I think, you know, I'm comparing right now, which seems kind of ridiculous to me, but I'm comparing, I forgot to fill this in, I'm comparing a broken line on a finger to comic books, but I think it's sort of maybe is a similar principle where if the reader feels like they're participating in the drawing, which they do with comic books, which they do if there's broken lines, like you look at his eye, right? I didn't draw the bottom of the eye, but you can figure it out. You can figure out where it is, what's going on there, without any help, because you're a grown-up, or maybe you're not. This is YouTube. Who's to say? Oh man, I really like this color palette. Participation, something, yada yada yada. Maybe next time I'll come up with cue cards or whatever, so you don't just have to slowly watch me meander through drawing one thing and just rambling about basically nothing. Maybe I should do lessons. I'll like format cards and like do like, oh, this lesson's on proportion, or this lesson's on whatever. Or I'd like to get into like YouTube drama and like maybe get into a feud with another artist, or like one artist is like, that's not right. You can't teach people to draw like that, you moron. You poison, you're toxic. You're freaking toxic. I just want somebody else to call me toxic so that I can have a little YouTube war with somebody. My big problem here is I don't know what color to make Fish Gun. Here he's like this blue, which I think is nice because he pops, but his color palette is so not harmonious with the protagonists. But maybe it should pop out. Maybe it should be pink. I feel like that might be kind of jamming. I'm really into like neon pink stuff lately, like that sort of Hotline Miami. Heck yes, that looks good. Okay, that like Hotline Miami vibe of like whatever that, like California heat kind of thing. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Leave me alone. What am I doing this in public for? I should just be rambling to myself. Pink and then maybe light pink. Kind of. Like, why not? But like also absolutely not, and I hate that now. Blue? No, that looks ridiculous. Oh dear, guys. Oh dear, oh dear. I like the pink. What goes good with pink? Let's see. Pink's complementary color. I could do teal. Yes, queen. Slay. And then the inside. I like to grab this color for his rebreather, and I'm going to use that for the barrel inside the gun, inside the fish's mouth. I like to have some colors be harmonious across all aspects. So like For example, in the last comic I did, I used this yellow. This kind of yellow is like orangey, mustardy yellow on pretty much all of my characters, which, I don't know. It's a little restrictive, but I think it's nice to have like this one color element that thematically ties everybody together. I really like this, but I feel like this blue is too blue. I'm going to need to lighten that a little bit up. If you have something that's super saturated, you don't want other stuff that's super saturated. This pink is getting to me now. Alright, here's what we're going to do. I think because it's a flat color, it's bothering me. So what I just did was I selected the color gamut. I think that's what it's called, a gamut. And I created a new layer. So I have this selection of the fish body, the pink color, and I created a new layer, and then I'm going to slap a gradient on there. Just to see if I can make it work a little better for me, because I think this pink by itself is a little too loud. I kind of like that, but now I feel like the blue is too weak. Now that I've dampened the pink a little bit, I can bump the blue back up. A lot of my process at least is like this like give and take of is like push and pull, conceding and unseating. I lied. This blue is terrible and it's driving me insane. Guys, I need help. I need physical and mental help. Boom! Freaking gunfish. Look at that. That's almost obnoxious to look at, and I don't think that color will print at all. I don't think that's a printable color. It's a printable offense. If you're still watching this, I'm so sorry. What are you doing? What are you up to? Just hang out. That's it. This weird green. Are fish green? Are fish ever even green? Thanks, Kanye. Very cool. And I'll slap this on here, and boom, and grab this yellow again, use that as the connector tube, take this gray, use that as the connector tube, darken this gray, it's like a gray-green, and make that as slippers, but forget to close the edges, and then it bleeds everywhere. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then snag my yellow again. It's the fewer the better is what I've heard. The less colors that you have, the more readable the design is from far away. I feel like he's a little too orange, and I'm not super sold on the fish colors yet, but I just kind of want to move on. I kind of want to get it done and see what it looks like. So he has this helmet here that I think is water. It's made out of water to protect him from water, which doesn't really make any sense. It's like a bubble, I guess. So I filled in this layer on top. I turned down the opacity a little bit. Maybe make it a different kind of layer, like overlay or something, which doesn't really work unless there's a color behind the rest of it. I like what it's doing to his face, though. So let's slap a background color in this. I've heard a lot of people say that it's not super great to work on white screens, and I think that's probably very true. It creates, this kind of eye fatigue, so you should really be working on, boom, a color like this so that you don't have to stare at white all the time. And also you can see your design in a better context. And now I'm realizing that the fish gun looks like a Fisher-Price toy. And this green is wrong, and I'll never be able to understand what color this is supposed to be, and it's going to haunt me forever, and being an artist was an absolute mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. Huh. You know what? Sure. Why not? Looks like he has a fire hydrant on his back. Ooh. Okay. So that. Oh wait, one more step here. We got our line work, and I create a new layer over the line work and clip it to the layer below, which means it only affects what's underneath it. And then what you can do color in your line work. I like to color in the line work, pick a color slightly darker than his skin tone, and use that where his skin tone overlaps with his skin tone. It's not quite dark enough. There we go. And you do that because, well, I think in reality people don't have outlines. They don't have dark edges around their body. I think they made that joke in Ed, Edd and Eddy once. And I thought it was hilarious back then. But this sort of makes things a little bit more harmonious. You know, you color in the line work and to me it makes things look juicier, is the word that I would use. So we grab this yellow and darken it up a considerable amount. It just makes things seem a little bit more harmonious. I probably already said that. I should have a script. Whatever. Get away from me. Leave me alone. So there we go. There's the final tip of the day. Color in your line work to make it look really good. But if you're bad at art and you want to get better at art, don't color in your line work to make it look really good. Don't spend any time trying to make your art look better. Just draw a million things until you're happy, until you're really good at art. Just keep drawing until one day you finally draw something and you're like, holy guacamole, I'm good now. Thanks, Zach. All of your really helpful advice came through, got through, went through, signed off, signed on. I might be having a stroke. And now I'm a fantastic artist. And you owe it all to me. Therefore, all of your profits are mine. So, that's a legally binding contract. Make this fish scales darker. I really like simple gradient colors on like characters or items or whatever, like selecting like a sweater and darkening it from the bottom up. I just think it's neat. But I leave this black line, I leave this from like item to item, from like sweater to skin, skin to fish gun, neck to head. I leave those lines just so that you can see things in more separate parts. And we get our little sheen on this bubble here. A little brighter. I've also seen a lot of people draw, they do like their shading and stuff with the lasso tool. They'll do like a lasso and then color with that, which I think is a really good idea. I just haven't kind of gotten the hang of that yet, so maybe I'll try to explore that next video if I try shading him. I really want to turn off the layer of his color palette. There we go. I found it. Anyway, there it is. That's Fish Gun. And probably a 20-minute long video about nothing. So thank you for joining me. And I will see you next, on the flip. I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.